Vlatka, vidim se, Nadu, vidim, čao.
Pozdrav.
Ćao.
Mislim duke kanë qenë kështu hapur me zapë, kështu se që nga një këtyre të një shpise me ty. Vik futu te kjo logo, te kjo gjëja se filloj. Po filloj, ma.
Jel me čujete? Dobro jutro svima.
Čujemo. Dobro jutro.
Aha, meni se tu i tamo gasi mikrofon, valjda, pa sad, na primjer, Amru ne čujem, ne znam je li vi ostali čujete, a vidim da priča.
Evo ga, jel vi mene čujete?
Heritage buildings can be seen as big economic asset and possibility for development and new income. For the past years, we have heard all kinds of successful stories on adaptive use and reuse of abandoned heritage buildings and sites. There are many research articles and projects on this subject. Most of them are focused on environmental impact, possibilities of retrofit, energy efficiency, and adequate materials. Some of them are focused on questions of identity, ethics, authenticity, and integrity. All stated are elements of the same puzzle and the goal, keeping heritage and making it living in our time. The fact is that the heritage, whether buildings or sites, should not be frozen in time. We must make all efforts to make it a livable element of our everyday life. That effort is not just obligation and duty of the conservators, architects and urban planners. It is the effort of the community as a whole. Successful examples, like take Modern Museum or Castelvecchio, or some others, are results of methodological approach to the problem as whole, and not just to the problem of abandoned and ruined industrial or heritage sites. Therefore, it is the duty of the whole community to get involved in the problem solving. However, with this comes the duty to, before all, really understand the problem, value of the heritage, reasons why some buildings or sites are heritage and important to us as a society. Furthermore, it is important for the whole community to understand or to define local context, local needs, and other elements that are of crucial importance for reuse, appropriate new use, or necessary upgrades in order to keep original uses. Whole process must be led by professionals, heritage experts, architects, urban planners, building conservators, simply because heritage properties are vulnerable. Therefore, methodology and methodology must be set up, valorization process conducted, restrictions set up, and so on. In order to get familiar with the process, examine how important inclusion of the wider community really is, introduce importance and impossibilities of the heritage for today's economy and development, LDA has done one small-scale but wide research named the communities, mapping cultural heritage sites with potentials for adaptive reuse. In following couple of hours, you will have opportunity to hear why and how industrial heritage is an opportunity in developing countries. What is educational significance of raising awareness on heritage, and what is the impact on social verification of industrial heritage? How methodological and systematic approach can lead to successful stories in reusing industrial heritage for local development? And what are possibilities and reasons for use, reuse, and redevelopment? In addition, you will be introduced to research done within this project, its results, and common conclusions. Before we start with the official part of this conference, I'd like to note you that you can send your questions during presentations or ask directly at the end of the conference. Your questions will be answered in the final part of this conference. Now, before we start with these old stories on use and reuse of heritage, I kindly ask Ms. Janana Dedic, project manager of the CLINK project, Local Democracy Agency Mostar, to address you all and introduce you with this interesting project. Janana, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Amra, for this wonderful introduction. I will present shortly the project. I hope you see my presentation. Just a second. So, here we have 176 registered participants, so this is really great number and shows how big interest is for the cultural heritage. Also, great thanks to panelists that we will have a chance to listen to the beautiful presentations they prepare for today. But as usual, we should present our project that is actually running for a year and a half now. And this is Cultural Linking Diversity in Europe, CLINK project that is actually start from the beginning of 2019 and ending in end of June this year. This project is financed by the European Commission program Europe for Citizens, and this is the general aim of the project to connect people and their cultural heritage, raise the awareness on the connection and the place their own cultural heritage has in the tapestry of the Europe's rich in diverse cultural heritage. So in general, all this program, Europe for Citizens, is dedicated to connecting people in Europe. So we actually choose the topic of heritage and find how heritage is as deeper as we go through the project implementation, we realize actually more connections and similarity than diversity. So this is something beautiful part that we actually pass through the project implementation. Project connects 10 communities in 3 EU countries, what is actually Croatia, France and Greece, and 4 countries out of the European Union. This is Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Albania. These are the partners connecting 10 communities. So here you can see it at the screen, at the map of Europe. So this Europe for Citizens program, as usually, give a possibility to organizations to implement several international and several local activities. So we have 3 international activities. The first one was the international conference in France, Normandy. This was a year ago during the anniversary of the D-Day in Normandy, and the topic of this conference was citizens' participation in the preservation of cultural heritage in their communities. So this is actually in focus, more in focus of the local democracy agencies. It's all about citizens' participation, and we try to serve to actually be as a platform for citizens to be involved in all this topic. The next international event was in Serbia, in Knjaževac, and the topic of this conference was cultural heritage as a source of urban regeneration, comeback of the craft making culture, and this was really beautiful 3 days spent in Knjaževac. We offered opportunity to young people, cultural actors, to actually show how much they are involved and they are inspired by the culture. And the third one is actually the final conference that we are organizing now, and this is Regenerating Heritage, New Life for Abandoned Industrial, Religious, Military or Public Buildings, and it is happening now. I'm really happy to have so many people attending this conference, but in the same time I'm very sorry that we don't have a chance to host you all here in our beautiful sunny Mostar. That was really right place to talk about this topic, regeneration of the heritage and all the ruins that are still existing in our city. During all those 3 international conferences, we produced some documents, and in Normandy, we produced recommendations for citizens' participation, and this was available for all the actors to communicate those recommendations with the relevant government institutions. In Knjaževac, during that event, we produced collection of best practices where we actually presented all the beautiful stories from all the cities that actually presented during the conference in Knjaževac. And now we will also produce one document. This is joint statement and conclusions on heritage restoration that was a result of the short research that it was just completed. And between those 3 international events, we also organized 2 local events. One was organized during the summer last year, and this was pop-up galleries. We actually had an open call for young people to apply with their artworks inspired by cultural heritage, and this was really wonderful thing that we got. We organized really wonderful pop-up galleries in our hosting cities, and it was really nice to see how young people are in different ways inspired by cultural heritage, producing wonderful things. And we had like a different kind of arts, paintings, artisan handicrafts, music, dance, folklore, many different things. So we also produced the report, and some of us produced some brochures to present the young actors. And the next local event was community forums organized in all local communities, partners of the project, and it was more, let's say, serious event where we actually offered the opportunity to all actors inspired by all actors involved in this topic to sit together, to talk, to raise awareness about the important thing at the local level, and to give possibility to citizens to be in touch with the local authorities and to talk and try to find ways to solve the problems that they face in their local communities. So this is specific objectives of the project, and I already, I think, presented shortly. This is all about citizen involvement and dialogue and the public policies and preservation and sustainable valorization of the cultural heritage. All this that is visible on the screen now, you will be able to actually get later on, and these are expected outcomes of the project. So the aim of the project is to increase interest, and I can say that we really increase the interest of the public about this topic in our cities and our local environments. We also trying to tackle EU policies, but also our national policies through all document produces. It was also very much connected to socio-economic development and tourism. What is most important to develop to actually increase the sense of belonging to the common European space. And we have all that we are talking about and today, and all that was implemented and produced during this year and a half, you can see on our website of our association ALDA. There is also official Facebook page, CLINK, and all the hashtags that we use during the project. So you can go there and see, and our administrator will also in the chat here copy all those links, so you can see all this. And also during all the conference, you will have a chance using all the tools in this control panel to open and see and download all 5 documents produced during the project implementation. So now I will try to share another screen just to show you to show you some photos through which actually you will see what was happening during a year and a half of our activity. So unfortunately, as I told you at the beginning, this is online meeting, but through our photographies, I will just try to show very few photos of the activities implemented during the project implementation. So it was from the different places, from different activities, and probably you will see, you will smell the cultural heritage of the Europe and our region, and the way how we implemented that much better through those photographies. There was music and art and tourists as well participating in our activities. We also had the chance to present our project during the open days of the program, Europe for Citizens. This was Greece, Albania. We also support the street art festivals in Mostar and Nikšić, so produced some murals, exhibitions, music, folklore, support young people. So the conference, this was from the first conference in Normandy. This is from the conference in Knjaževac. A lot of young people involved, handicraft. So this was really very interesting and very nice project that all partners was very much happy with and connected. And actually, we already think about the way how to continue something similar, to continue connecting people in Europe. So thank you for your participation in our conference, and so we can continue now with the presentations of our panelists.
Dženana, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the overview of the whole project. I hope all the participants are a bit more familiar now with what the project was about and what could be some possible outputs. I again note that you have all the outputs of the project given here in the handouts, so you can download them and use them. Mm-hmm. And now to start with the presentations of the panelists as set in agenda. First panelist is Vlatko Čakširan, historian and director of Sisak Municipal Museum. He's a passionate lover in the industrial heritage. Beside this, he's a man with a vision and strength to make positive change in the community. He has created and developed idea how to turn abandoned industrial heritage of Sisak, Croatia, that was one of the most important industrial cities in Croatia until 90s, into new city development area, but not by demolishing existing buildings and memories, but by continuing their life and placing new layers of history on them, making it possible for citizens to create new life connections and new memories. Today, he will present these successful stories. So, Vlatko, please take the word.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Vlatko, everything is fine. Hi, Vlatko, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Now you can start with your
but
presentation.
I cannot see my screen, so.
We see your screen.
Okay.
All the
okay.
others, we see your screen.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to say hello to everyone who watches and listen to us. My team is mapping of industrial heritage of the Sisak, potential of local development. I came from the city that was one of the highly industrialized city, not just in Croatia, but in former Yugoslavia. And from the 90s, we have one big process of rapid process of deindustrialization that was destroyed about 70% of all our industries. And we have diversity of industries like oil industry, metal industry, chemical industry. There was a need for new ideas, need for revitalization, and the need for new possibilities of
Vlatko, please, sorry to interrupt. Just click on your microphone.
Yeah, I'm clicking and do you hear me?
For interruption. Now we hear you. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah. But it automatically turn off and on. So I don't touch nothing. So it's a technical problem. I have for the beginning of the mapping, I have some long-term research about 4 years, and after that I make a paper map with and I locate 35 locations of industrial heritage in the city. This map was the basis for future projects and allow easier communication with the public. Increases the visibility of the city and enables the creation of quality culture and tourist strategy of the city. After the mapping of whole industrial heritage, I try to present industrial heritage mainly to the local, at first to the local population, because the industrial heritage is a part of our identity, and the local population were connected to this. Before industrial heritage, we have living factories and living industries. So my idea is to make one event, and the event was called Industrial Heritage Days of City of Sisak. And this year we will have 8 days in a row. Main goal is to present industrial heritage mainly to the domestic population. And I organized lectures, exhibitions, sightseeing, events like beer festival, industrial party, workshop for children, and other things like performances and conferences. The first European Heritage Days were in the 2013, and it was connected with the European Heritage Days. So we try to connect it with the European perspectives and give some European context of whole industrial heritage. And it's what is most interesting that the poster for the European Heritage Days for Croatia had one picture from Sisak. It's our old warehouse called Holland or Dutch House, and I will tell you something about it later. But this building is very important for us today. After that, we opened the Facebook page for easier communication with the population, and it's still in progress. It's very important to give information about industrial heritage, not just the local population, then the population in whole Croatia and other countries. As I said, I organized a lot of exhibitions, lecturing, and so on. And in those times, I have cooperation with lots of organizations in Sisak, like Strigl City Gallery, Sisi Obscura Photo Gallery, local public library, city theater, and so on. So it's when you connect with lots of organizations, you have better feedback and contact with the audience. I also invite foreign professors, and they speak about industrial heritage in Germany, France, Slovenia, and other countries. And it was interesting to show that in other countries have similar problems like we in Sisak, and they have some good examples of the industrial heritage projects. Also, we have some component of living history, and when we talk about metallurgy, we are bringing some blacksmith. It's very good for cooperation with the especially young population and children. I should say behind the walls. Only the workers can go inside, and nobody knows what are they doing. But today, when they doesn't work, I organized the sightseeings in there, and the people can see the part of the cities that in there that are not seeable before. These are, I don't know, the old port facility, old river shipyard, old Sisak breweries. This is the old famous Sisak alcohol factory called Sagestica, famous because of the vodka trojka. I don't know, in former Yugoslavia, a very famous drink. Also, my idea is to make some kind of event, a combination with gastronomy and industrial heritage. And the first thing is to make one beer festival, because Sisak was famous in the history for brewing. We also had 2 breweries, and today this beer festival is one of the most important touristic events in Sisak. The beginning of the festival was in 2015, and it was 106th anniversary of the first CSAC brewery. So it was very interesting connection, as I said, with gastronomy and industrial heritage. Industrial party for young population, very interesting. We also work with the children, especially with the, in the kindergarten and elementary schools. For us, it's important to teach children, young children, for about industrial heritage, like a part of our city identity. And we also try to make our future public for our museum exhibitions, lecturing, and we try to make them some kind of city ambassadors of the industrial heritage. This is something that was part of the Industrial Heritage Days with the cooperation of the city theater. It shows that you can make something else in the industrial facilities in the town. After that, we have some. It's when I talk about projects about industrial heritage, I talk about continuity projects. First, it was a mapping of industrial heritage. After that, it was one event big for the people. And second, third, and most important project is info center of the industrial heritage of the city of Sisak. I show you a poster related with the European Heritage Days and the building that was in the circle. Info Center of Industrial Heritage Holland, Hollandska kuća, or Holland or Dutch House, is most valuable project of industrial heritage in Sisak, and idea for revitalization presentation of industrial heritage of the city of Sisak, and it was the first info center of industrial heritage. This is the building itself, a photo from the 50s. This is the part of the project. We renewed the building and architecture, like a modern interpolation in the center of the town. It was a very good combination, and we try to connect old and new. This is the building before renovation, and this is the building after the renovation, on the day of the grand opening of the building. This is the building inside before renovation, and this is the building after that. This is the day when we opened our Holland House, our info center, and what was more important, it's behind me. This is the interactive map, digital map of the industrial heritage of the town of Sisak. So at first we have a paper map with a location, and today we have a digital map. This is a story of the possibilities. You can start from the beginnings with something smaller, and but maybe someday this idea can be much bigger. And Holland House in Sisak, it's showed you what are the possibilities of industrial heritage and industrial heritage sites on location of the Sisak. This is something that was interesting. We have in the Holland House, we have an exhibition connected with the a Kraker collection. It's a collection of all the radios, gramophones from our famous collector Velimir Kraker, and we connected this story with industrial heritage. related to industrial design from the beginning of 20th century till the first half of the 20th century. It's very interesting thing that we are connected the industrial heritage and industrial design in the same building. This is of course our entrance in the Holland's house and the shop, because you must have some kind of money earned because of the developing of the project. This project was EU project, mainly EU funded project. About 3 million euros were from the European funds, and almost 1 million euros from the city of Sisak. So we have some kind of rules how to manage all the things in the building. And at the end, conclusion, I think that industrial heritage is a cultural and touristic resource, and increase the total value of the cultural heritage of the city. You know, Sisak is a town that is old about 6,000 years. We have 6,000 years of continuity of life. We have pre-Roman and Roman archaeological artifacts and sites. We have one famous fortress from the 16th century. We have an old city center. We have 3 rivers, and half of the nature park, Lonja Field, is part of the city of Sisak. So we have a big capacity in cultural and natural heritage. And when you put in those heritage, industrial heritage, you will have a much higher value of cultural heritage of the city. I think that industrial heritage increases visibility of city, and what is most important, industrial heritage is the potential for further development of my city. And I think this is the thing in other cities. Thank you very much.
Vlatko, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation and a very successful story. We wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have a question. Actually, our attendees to the conference have one of the questions. Is center in Sisak sustainable? Can you tell us something about the sustainability of the center?
It's a good and tough question, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I think that we have a good start with the project of Holland House. We have lots of people that came to Sisak to see something new, different, modern, and so on. But it had a great future. When I talk about my project and in the Holland House, but the coronavirus demolished everything.
Of course, this pandemic that affected all of us.
Pandemic demolished everything. One continuity that we are making in Sisak for several years, it demolished everything, and we are now going from the beginning. But before the coronavirus, the situation was much better than, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, because lots of industrial facilities were developed something different. Lots of industrial facilities transformed to something another. You know, for creating
appropriate reuse.
It's that maybe. I don't know. As I said, the corona stopped everything, but I am. I'm an optimist. So,
only the optimistic man could start this idea. One more thing, you said it at the beginning. The project of the Holland House, Dutch House, was mainly EU money, but it was also financed by the local government as well.
So
you have support of the local
of course,
government from the start of this project, not just for the Dutch house, but for the whole project.
Without the local government, I don't know what will be with the project.
So you really have the understanding, not just I mean on paper, but real understanding and the support of the local government in all this.
I use situation that nobody wants to invest in the town, you know. So I use the situation to sensibilize the local population and government to see that this is the something good for future development of the city. So that today everybody knows about.
Can make some new. That you yourself as a local community can make some contribution and give new start, just not by asking for help, but making it from the inside.
And making new value.
Making new value. It's a very, very good and successful story, and actually, just by that, it's sustainable in its way. And the beer festival and all the other things, industrial heritage, they are mapped on the touristic route of the Croatia.
It's not just a local event today. It's a state event. So.
Promoted on the state level.
State level.
Vlad, congratulations for the project.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. And
we'll
we'll see each other later at the end of the conference.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I will call Anna Martinovic, architect whose love for research has taken her in many corners of the world, but really all around the world. Her research is not just architectural. She questions link between buildings and people, architecture and society, people needs and spatial possibilities. It's problematic abandoned heritage sites. She seeks for answers that can provide and guarantee continuation of life with memories and cultural identity. Today, Anna will point out what should be the role of industrial heritage in developing countries and importance of integrated sustainable approach focusing on Bosnia and Herzegovina case. Anna, please take the floor.
Thank you, Amram. I hope you all can hear me. If not, the organizers will let me know, I hope. So
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
And see the presentation.
Great. I will shortly, thank you. I will present industrial heritage role in developing countries with a closer look on the city of Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So in the Western countries, industrial heritage has been recognized as an important part of urban regeneration for several decades now, while in countries in development or post-conflict areas, that is still not the case, and it is still an ongoing process in some way. Today, all around the world, we can see examples of adaptive reuse of industrial heritage sites, from which we can study and examine both their successes or their weaknesses. When talking about how to deal with heritage recognition and regeneration in developing countries, it is very important to have in mind the context we are talking about. In particular, in post-conflict places, it is very important to deal with the recognition of these sites in the first place, because there were so many ways to try to delete the past, the customs, the history that all formed the society. So it is really important to preserve in a sustainable way what is left to preserve for future generations. So I truly believe that the platforms such as this one that we are doing today should be enhanced to and should become part of decision making on both local and national level when discussing heritage regeneration. In particular, in post-conflict zones, heritage categories also are important factor because of the society issues that are always involved. The question that arises here is which type of architectural heritage, which category is the most suitable one to help the community to enhance its issues. And it has to be investigated in depth, this issue, because perhaps in contested places such as Mostar, focusing on religious heritage might not have the positive effect on community interaction. In the case of Mostar, for example, it is noted that in the years after the war, the accent was put on protecting UNESCO's protected old town, and there were some isolated cases of regeneration of religious heritage, which actually didn't have a desired effect on wider community. So this is why, for the case study that I will show in a few minutes, we decided to choose a possible example of industrial heritage site and to undertake urban intervention in this site. So the best way to conserve a heritage building, a structure or a site, is to use it. And adaptive reuse is a solution there because it is often seen as a sustainable way to regenerate former derelict spaces. Adaptive reuse gives a chance for a new beginning by continuing life process of the building and at the same time without erasing any part of its past. When talking about sustainable approaches in industrial heritage regeneration means taking into account all of the sustainability factors, and sustainable approaches are actually closely connected with regeneration projects of heritage sites. From the environmental sustainability point of view, retaining a heritage building is environmentally more sound than destroying it and building a completely new one. By retaining the building, its embodied energy is being retained. The embedded energy, that means all the energy that was used to build the structure, fuel, materials, human resources, and by making the continued use of this existing environmental capital, that means less waste, less energy that needs to be devoted to bringing in new materials, etc. When talking about economic sustainability pillar, it is interesting perhaps to connect it with circular economy concept, which is about driving new economic growth with full awareness of natural resources. This brings forward a different approach about the materials we use and how we use them, and consequently on how we drive business. And lately, the last one, let's say, social sustainability, which for many times and in many fields has been the least represented one, is actually the one that must be put in the first place when thinking about heritage regeneration in post-conflict areas. I will briefly jump to context of Bosnia and Herzegovina to say that industrialization in Bosnia and Herzegovina came with the arrival of Austro-Hungarian Empire at the end of 19th century, and industry centers were focused around the major cities, Sarajevo, Tuzla, Zenica, Banja Luka, and Mostar. While in the area of Herzegovina, there were two periods of industrialization, the first one in Austro-Hungarian Empire and the second one in Yugoslavia period between 1943 and 1991, with Mostar as its center. So during the last war, the city of Mostar was irreversibly destroyed, which left as a consequence physical and mental scars, not only on the city structure, but on the entire community as well. The city has faced serious urban decay. In the context of the war disaster that the city had to struggle with, many industrial facilities were forced to shut down, and also because they were not able to respond to the new demands of fast-growing economic markets. On this side, there is some mapping of industrial sites in Mostar, some of which are unfortunately already destroyed in the period after the war, and some of them were inadequately reconstructed. So, however, to open up a discussion about how some of Mostar's abandoned sites can be reused as hubs for civil initiatives, we decided to do urban intervention in form of bottom-up approach in a former Žitopromet company. This was a complex whose oldest part of this factory dates from Austro-Hungarian period. The greatest extent of the factory happened in 1968 when 24 of these steel silos were added to the complex. And the complex itself, it had grain silos, mills, and bakery. There was also another complex which was located in the northern district of the city called Raštanin. There were concrete silos there, and they were connected with the silos in the city with railway that dates from Austro-Hungarian period. Unfortunately, these concrete silos in Raštanin were destroyed during the last war. The urban intervention we did was sort of bottom-up approach, and it included 4 days of workshops, lectures, and other participatory activities in the spaces of former factory. There were local students from local secondary school, local artists, architects, citizens from the same neighborhood mainly, who were participating in these workshops. There was a positive overall receivement, let's say, in both local community and in local media as well. This factory was sold to private investor, and finally it was destroyed in 2018. Industrial heritage, because of its particularities, its regeneration can be a challenge to architects, but at the same time it offers huge number of possibilities for various types of uses that can become, as Vlatko said before, really generators of urban transformation, not only in spatial sense, but in post-conflict areas, which is more importantly, by taking a role as generators of social change. So in Mostar, to conclude, the first step should be set on protection of still existing architectural heritage, which is still not protected. Later, they should really try to make that bridge and collaborate between the academics on one side and the professionals on site, on the field on the other side, and city governments and citizens as well, because sometimes when you are lucky enough, as Vlatko and Sisak, you can have a good collaboration with city government, but unfortunately, from my experience with Žitopromet company, it was not so open to discussion, let's say. The next step would be to develop a methodological frame for each particular heritage site, because there is no general methodology for all of them. And well, all these general raw steps can serve as a base in developing integrated sustainable approach for each particular heritage site. On-field bottom-up approach and actions such as the one that we held in Žitopromet company could be a good starting point to enhance community interaction and start dialogue with all of the stakeholders involved. And as we've seen in Žitopromet, this does not necessarily mean a positive outcome for that particular location, but it surely had a positive outcome in enhancing community cohesion and in particular in presenting heritage values to wider community, which in one way is the first step and the goal. I think I'm running out of time, so I will finish here.
No, you're just on time. Everything's just fine. Thank you, Anna, for this very nice presentation and explaining experience of Mostar regarding approach to the industrial heritage and showing us this one of the case studies. From your experience, I mean, in the end, you really pointed out importance of integrated sustainable approach really clearly, and why the whole community should be involved in the decision-making process. From your point of view, do you think for Mostar, rebuilding or rehabilitation or reuse, not just industrial buildings, but other abandoned buildings in the center of town or in the all area of Mostar would be positive injection for rehabilitation of life, of gathering people together again, bringing people together, creating new connections between people in the Mostar as a town today is. What do you think this rehabilitation and reuse, reintegration, use of all the heritage, not just industrial, would be for the city?
That is a difficult one for Mostar.
Yes. Mostar is...
Yes, it's a very complex city, and I think it is possible. I mean, that was the reason why we undertook this this urban initiative in Žitopromet factory, which showed we had some interviews and we were measuring the people who were visiting, let's say. So, and we had people from all ethnicities and all religion that were visiting this these workshops. And so I believe that if this social component is included, if before making any kind of project on any kind of heritage site is studied in depth, the needs of community, the needs of society, I believe it is possible even in a city like Mostar to bridge these gaps and to, in a way, reconciliate the population. There were isolated events that I believe that managed to let's say, put the population on one place, as it was the organization of New Year event, for example, on Spanish Square. I was not there, but what I have heard, it was, you probably know better maybe, there were a lot of people, and it was
yes,
it was kind of isolated event, but that showed that if you give to the community what it really needs, some of the issues and questions can be overcome.
Yeah, if you actually start dialogue with the community and
exactly.
Appreciate their opinion and take it into consideration, their opinion
exactly.
as well.
Yeah, in contested places such as Mostar, this change has to come from down, from bottom up. It cannot be implemented from the top, because then it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why the projects like this urban intervention that you had here are very important in order to raise awareness among people how they can express their voice and actually to give the opportunity for their voices to be heard and to actually learn the dialogue with the governments and everybody else to express their interests on the sites in general, on the spatial, on the territory where they live. That's why it's really important for us to have as many of these projects as possible. Thank you very much, Anna. We'll see you also at the end of the conference. Now I would like to call Roberto Zancan, professor in history and theory of architecture in Geneva. His professional CV goes far beyond this and testifies to his commitment and deliberation to architecture and urban heritage. His work and research is mainly focused on urban space, its integration, regeneration, conservation, but also violation and demolition. Today, Roberto will speak on reuse in general. Roberto, I welcome you, and please take the word.
Nice to see you again today, and I'm very happy that Senada invited me and you approved her invitation. But I think I will be a little bit different from you, from your speech today. As you mentioned, so maybe a little bit, I know I will be super short, but I think it's very important, my introduction, to explain the context of what I will go to say, and what I'm here and what I'm interested in what you're doing. So I met Seneda the first time in Mostar when I was working with the head of UNESCO direction of heritage, creating material of UNESCO in Venice with Bandarin. There was at that time the leader of this discipline in the world. And but I always been somebody active in different fields. One is that one of history architecture that I'm teaching now, and the second one is something between art, landscape, and urban design and architecture. So what essentially I'm doing? I'm a sort of historian of heritage. And on the basis of this, what I want to try to give you today is some sort of upload on recent position, showing to you some small examples or big example, but very short in time, about what is the situation in the discipline and what you have to consider in the moment that you want to progress in your activity about heritage in industrial fields, in urban environment, etc., etc. So that's why my title on my presentation is sounds more or less like spolia, reuse, and action. You will see this as keyword for me and for you to convince you. So I will start with spolia. I take spolia from Wikipedia. I don't know. It's can you interact with me? Anybody know the concept of spolia? Somebody can replay? Hello?
Roberto, everybody can hear you, but we cannot interrupt your presentation. I'm sorry. We give the floor just to you. But I'm quite sure that some of us are familiar with the term of spolia, but maybe others and many others are not. So
okay.
You can explain.
It's okay. You can replay. That's why.
No, it's not that interactive.
Okay, thank you very much. So what spolia is, it's a very simple concept, but it's very key concept of our future. I'm really talking about the future. Also, if I show something very old. So spolia, what it essentially is to steal something and reuse directly. Reuse without modification. Adaptation, you can destroy a part of this capital, for example, this is put inside the wall of a church in Greece, or essentially is to reuse pieces that are already there, and pieces that are related to architecture, they are related to building, construction, work of art, a lot of time, everything, if we can say. So why it's so important? I think it's particularly important for our context, our cultural. And when I say our, I say Adriatic context. I mean, all the architecture that's been developed since the antiquity between, I could say, Bosnia and Venezia. And why? Because we are very into sort of continuity with antiquity. And so that was, for example, for ancient Roman, the reuse, the spolia was also a political act. So to take some work out of the country they were lost a battle, they were lost a war against Romans, and they keep part of their treasure and they put inside new treasure in Rome. At the same time, Venice, for example, is a city that's completely built like that. But there are many, many examples in our context. That's such a key figure in the conceptual architecture of our countries. Not only countries, I really say in a sort of our Adriatic concept of architecture. I underline this, maybe for you sounds a little bit strange in first sight, but if you start to look at your cities, I can obviously describe Split, but also I saw the same things in Mostar and even in Banja Luka or even in Sarajevo. But this is a little bit different. Sarajevo, you know, is such a new city in general. No, but so this idea is to have a continuity taking the same pieces. This means that we are not an extractive architecture. That means that we are going to reuse what exists. What is the key concept is reuse, not recycle. Recycle implicates use of new energy to produce another things. We recycle all the time. Our doesn't matter what they say to us, our culture is a recycle culture. All the paper we use are paper that are taken not from new trees, but always a mixing between something that's been retake from somewhere and put with new. Also the plastics, when we always worry about the problem, the too much plastic that's around the world, most of the plastic is already recycled. As we see, that's not solve the problem. That means that we continue to waste plastic. We continue to waste construction materials. We continue to waste and destroy forests to make paper, etc. Because this reuse is not the way. Reuse means that you implicate use of energy, transformation. You put a lot of new energy. You produce a lot of emissions to reuse, to recycle. Reuse is a completely different concept. It's the idea to reuse without modify the things that you use, that you're gonna to put in action again. Obviously, this is possible in not a situation, and sometimes it's not. But if we start to think in a different way, we can go back to the roots, for example, of the Adriatic cultural architecture. Construction, I will say, is even better. Construction is something more larger, and it implicates everything, not architecture in the sense of monuments in comparison to the place where people usually lived. If we start to think in architecture, it's not made of extractive extraction materials. This is not made of using new products, etc. But start to be reused. It means growing up in scale that you reuse the sites, you reuse the building, you reuse part of them. You reuse literally what is there. It's a very important and key difference on what is in this moment the avant-garde in architecture, the avant-garde in the way of treat cities, the avant-garde in the way of to be smart. I would say the modern smart city, this idea of reuse is a key moment to transform our future. It's not so building new tower in China, but it's how we can not change the place where we are and reusing that. I want to show you how concrete is this thing. Starting very quickly, I will not talk for a long time. With I can send you after these links. I have not particular images. I have something I can show you, but you can find. I prefer you're gonna read after all this stuff. So waste not. It's an article on the architectural view. I have another one I wrote many times, but I didn't find online this morning when I was looking. So etc. And so what I want to show, for example, is the practice of this. It used to be a architectural studio, now is a company of demolition and selling of used material. Their name is Rotor, now renamed Rotor Deconstruction. And what essentially they do? They take the waste, they demolish building, and they deconstruct building, and they sell the pieces that they took. This means that the meaning of concepting architectural intervention, construction is not in the idea to do before a project and then things where I have to go. I start with what I have and I try to do what I need. It's a completely different way of looking at things. It's a thing that is very respectful. It's a thing that's very clever. We have so many things we are useful and quite everything. And we can use it to produce what we need. So I lock this article with you. I want to go inside their website, for example. So it's maybe I go back to the first floor, to the first page. Sorry, I went inside looking for some images after. So this is Rotor Deconstruction. Essentially, what is what? It's a demolition deconstruction company that collect every kind of materials and put in a storage and then sell as a catalog to the people that needs, to other construction companies. And what is interesting about that? The fact that their idea of recycling material, or a material that is recyclable, that is reusable, to use the perfect way, is a material that is cost or reuse is on the market. It means the cost that he has is a cost that there will be active, that will make of this material something that you can really consider in your normal activities. So, and there are every kind of material, from bricks, you see, there are glass bricks, there are doors, there are floors, there are furniture, etc. So there are every kind of things. If you start to look at this kind of things, you understand that for a long time, the architecture that we love, the architecture of the past, of the big past of the architecture side, was mainly done like this. I was looking for a picture of Basilica di San Marco. If you won't go in front, as I did one of the last days, one of the days of last week, it's you can totally understand how this wonderful building is made by stealing pieces, not stealing buildings, stealing pieces, stealing columns, stealing capitals, and etc. in other places. So it's just a question that we have to come out for our culture new. There was the culture of modernity, there was the culture of mass production, there was the culture of insert this kind of novelty, because we were thinking welfare was made by the new, but at the point that that welfare was called consumism, we can think that in a completely different way and build not recycling, but starting from what we have to concept the new, or concept not only the new, but what exactly we need. Not only repairing, obsolescence, etc. I want to show this in some intervention that maybe you will think you will find more near to your activities. This is a series of how to say, an institution. It's called Landward Sardinia. Has a long story now. Now it's became quite a sort of consolidated institution with that receive also public funding, etc. After a long years of activity. And it is what? It's a series of activities that made on the geominerary park of Sardinia. Sardinia used to be like the neglected land of Italy, island that it was used essentially for mining. There are big minings of carbon, there was coal, of iron, etc. Especially in the Turkic time during the war, the last World War. And eventually these activities started also before in the 19th century. It was like a place where there are a huge amount of unaffected and abandoned quarries and mines. Starting at the beginning of year 2010, landlords Sardinia start to organize workshops in some of these sites, and with this method of a workshop, start to transform this place. This is a famous place called Agencija. It's in the north, and now is the headquarters of organization. So it was a small organization that was built slowly in the time. It's not now, maybe it can seem something consolidated, it seems hard to do, etc. It takes 10 years to arrive to this point. But step by step was a way to transform the landscape through action of small groups that through workshop acting to transform these sites. The transformation is connected to heritage. All these places are very known as a heritage place. There are workshops, there are meeting with people, there are activities that are made with students, there are the participation, as you mentioned before, is extremely important. It also not only to produce what's make the transformation, but to make people part of this project. Without the participation, this project will transform, I don't know, in hotels, in touristic destination, etc. Not what is needed by the communities that are located there, but more for entrepreneur and real estate people. So the idea is actually to act and to go in action directly. This is the last word on my presentation, my title of my presentation, and then I will finish as action. So as that of the fact of acting, not planning, not design, etc., but directly acting, like from the ground, from the base, from the ground intended as soil, as a starting point to going up, is the name that we give also to our action group. It's called ground action. I want to show you something that is we are doing in this conception, and is the idea is actually to act, starting act directly, act without thinking, acting, doing things to produce a changement that is immediate and that can go forward as possible. This is a garden that we made you see, this is a part of, there are multiple activities. We don't start with a project, we start most with going a place called by somebody, or work to formation workshop, or otherwise to acting like we are called by community and we act. The idea is not to auto-construction, it's not self-made, it's to start making things. Maybe I can show you something like this one, that's sort of, this was a wonderful mining in Sardinia. It's part exactly of what we participate with some of the landworks, and is it's an incredible building in front of the sea. As you can see, that we were setting here like a play, a theater play, but it was to preparing. This is me acting just to show the back of myself, just to restore a place, but without changing that. There were people that want to do a big restaurant here because it's a wonderful place, so they can give job to a lot of people, etc. But the point is to keep this place as it is, change a little bit to make people possible to go, to visit, or to have a chance to go, but not transform in a direction that go towards the typical touristic attraction. The idea is to reuse things, move it, and live quietly, and give people what they want. That is not to transform completely their life, that they want to have a light economy, quietly, and possibly what they need.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much. As you said at the beginning, it is a bit different presentation than from the others, but it's also raising some other questions that are relevant for the topic that we have. But before that, I would like to ask you, now what you presented us here for the ground action, the acting on the ground. For this group of enthusiastic people working on actual sites, as you mentioned, not just to turn it into the touristic hotel area, but to have it something for the community. What's your how you work with the community? Do you have some defined collaboration, for example, with the schools? We saw that there were school children involved in your actions. How you choose whether it will be a primary school or secondary school, for example? Who choose the actions and based on what? How you this ground action choose on what to do? Is it in some collaboration with the local community, their needs, or you do the mapping and the valorization and then you choose what would be the best for the local community? And in the end, how you finance those actions that you have on the field?
So I think it's not a recipe, a correct recipe.
Of course. It's just for this case.
And the point in our case is very, very different. So every case is different. For example, landworks is something that was born because there is a school of architecture and landscapes mostly in the north of Sardinia, and there are these sites. So you have one, for example, the Geominerari Museum, Geominerari, well, let's say museum, park, Geominerari Park. It's really an institution that's part of a region of Sardinia, so it's something public, institutional, no? Go to the university. What we can do here, huh? So there were a group of people, students of architecture with professor that say, oh, why don't we start to do this kind of activity? Then you go to the mayor of the local community and you start to talk, oh, what we can do, etc., where we can find the budget, oh, we can have maybe a sponsor from the botanic garden, all the things. This is one way for it. Another one is we work a lot with communities, especially in Sicily. No?
Okay.
Usually that start, for example, you know, Sicily have a lot of problem with mafia, especially in Palermo. Oh, yes, it's part of the thing. So there's a lot of group in every neighborhood. No, sometimes we work with the church, sometimes we work with the school. There are a lot of activity to keep kids active, to not fall in bad interest. No. And so sometimes they come to us, or we know already somebody is active and say, oh, what we can do together, etc. I'll say, why don't we bring the kids to go in this place that's neglected and we paint? I'd say paint, but it's more interesting. Why we can show them that this place is better what they do. No, they think they get. Other time we give grades to architects or to professionals. Usually in every profession, if you're a lawyer, if you are an engineer, if you're an architect, you need to follow some courses for you call professional formation, same thing, this kind of thing. So you each year, I don't know, you have to take 10 year courses. You pay an amount like 10, I don't know, 100 euro. You follow a course, you have credits that allow you to continue your profession. So frequently, there are a professional organization that call us and say, oh, we have to do one of this. So we like what you do. What we can do together? And this kind of time. Sometimes we see a place and we say, oh, why don't we act here, and we try to find who is interested. And so it's the best thing that you mentioned is working with not only children, but everybody's information. That's students from university to elementary school. Huh?
So actually it's the professionals listening to the impulse of the community and proposing the actions in order to upgrade or make a better life in the community together with the people from that. More or less.
I would say that it depends by people. But sometimes can be somebody like Seneda, for example. It's somebody that is active already in locally, or could be also people that have nothing to do with transformation. A school teacher, no, that you kept. Many times it happens with school teacher because obviously they are the first sparks in a community, no, because they have to do things with kids, etc. And it's more that's what we call action, because it's not we don't want to build something, we want an action to start things.
You want to actually use all things that already are there and to integrate them again into the life. So coming back to the industrial heritage, you mentioned from the beginning spolia and reuse. In your opinion, what's the possibility of reuse of industrial heritage? And you pointed out several times, I mean, using it without modifications. So what's the real possibility to use already built buildings, to reuse them? You mentioned that at one point to make a new life, to give new function, but without modification of the building as it is. Do you have some?
I think, as you know, no, we have the Tate Gallery, or I don't know, now the most important building in art, or I mean the art as a touristic destination, are previous factory, no?
Yes.
I don't know, it's quite everywhere. Now there is this building that's going to arrive in Moscow soon. The Bach Foundation will be one of the biggest new museum that's they're going to open now, but they have to progress for next year.
Yeah, we have lots.
Yeah, so now it's the museum have to go in industrial building. The point is that when they remake that, they don't look anymore industrial. I mean, it's not about the looking. The work they made was so big that you can build a new building. There's nothing changed.
It's not anymore reuse. It's actually so big intervention that's.
So the idea is to reuse. The sense is, the point is, we don't need the answer before. We have to find the answer after. Maybe you can keep like a ruin. You can use a part to do something. Essentially, also the material can come. You can use like a cave sometimes. You can take in pieces and put in another. What are the really need of a society? Is to have a new museum, to have, because the idea is to have a lot of tourism coming, or the idea is to give people work. For example, I tell you one very provocative thing, sorry, it's why we use machine to work. We can use our body, no? It's different. When machine arrived, when in construction, obviously the people were poor, the workers were people that know the jobs, and everything was made by hand because was like was a sort of poorness, no? Oh, the people were poor, but now when we spend a lot of money to go to the gym, you can, I don't know, you can organize people to rebuild, destroy something and get money, or otherwise, or make work very long, for example. I'm not against the machine. I'm not a ludistic idea or against the. I say, but the part is not need that you complete. You go fast because you have to go fast, because the politician bought a museum in 1 year, so you're gonna vote them again. The point is, what we really want. I want the people work, for example. So if a building takes 5 years to get built, slowly people come and work half a day, not 9 hours in a crazy situation with all the big companies. It's a way of thinking that must be different. People, okay, we're gonna build in 5 years, and then people go home to eat and then come back. Slow down.
But it's also a way of connecting people to the buildings. And that's actually, that's what's important for the heritage and for the reuse, to make new connections. That's very important segment of that whole process of reusing the heritage and reintegration of it.
Yeah, and
not to disconnect it from the local community, but to find ways of better connections. Reintegration is with the people, not just for the new users and for the tourists.
It's about working is it's a community. Create really a community. You start working, and I don't know. It's this day we were discussing about how many people now is working for all this popping up Amazon's logistic platform in Italy after the COVID. Now obviously Amazon is growing up and up, and they're giving a lot of jobs. And because there's a crisis of job, everybody's happy. But if you look at people work there, it's alienating totally. And they're making boxes and they are to run, etc. It will not better to go outside to work and help our places. I mean, it's a question of economy built. We have to.
Yeah, cultural heritage does has a big potential to get us out of any crisis, and work on the heritage has proven many times to be a very big local development initiator. Roberto, thank you very much for this wide overview of all the issues and matter. Thank you. We'll see each other again at the final stage of this conference. Now I would like to call Maja Pličanić, architect and associate at the Faculty of Educational Sciences at University of Sarajevo. Beside architecture, focusing on industrial and residential architecture, she is constantly involved in work with community, especially with children, all ages. Over time, she managed to put together her two passions and develop several research combining these two. Today, she will present one of her research, significance of education and importance of industrial heritage, and what's impact of this on social verification of industrial heritage. Maja, please take the word.
Thanks, Sandra, for introductory presentation. And given the time limit we have during the presentation and a little bit of performance anxiety on my part, I will read my presentation so as not to omit anything, okay? As researcher in the field of industrial heritage, I will present the current situation in terms of activity, that is professional valorization and, more importantly, social verification of industrial heritage in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will also present to you a large upcoming exhibition organized by the Cultural Heritage Without Borders Foundation. Okay. Sorry. From previous presentations, we have been introduced to the definition and significance of industrial heritage. This slide only symbolically shows a large number of international bodies and associations involved in the study, promotion and protection of significant part of the historical heritage. In all international documents directing protection in this field, from the recommendation of the Council of Ministries of Europe from 1990 through to the fundamental document, the Nizhny Tagil Charter, to the latest crown document of the Dublin Principles adopted by ICOMOS, there are special lanes which require education and training in this area. These documents emphasize the importance of education, both professional at the university level and the children of all ages. The promotion of the value of this type of heritage is also given great significance through various museums and exhibitions in order to educate a wider audience for the purpose of social valorization of industrial heritage, which is set at the key point of recognizing the value of this vulnerable heritage and its preservation. And now follows a brief overview of the states of industrial heritage in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina has a total of 5 individual monuments or sites of industrial heritage on its list of national monuments. Our attitude towards the industrial heritage faithfully illustrates the case of the old power plant in Sarajevo which was declared monument 5 years ago. Under the pressure of investor urbanism and almost deliberate negligence of the entire society, the abolition of the adopted protection measures and its removal from the list of national monuments is being considered nowadays. In the right corner, we see two projects of this conversion into Technical Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina. There is also the last current study on its establishment, which actually never happened. In our country, of course, there are small museums that present the industrial heritage within Serratian industries, such as the Tuzla Salt Work Museum, the Sarajevo Brewery Museum, the Sarajevo Tobacco Factory, or the museum within the Zenica Iron Works. In the last decade, however, some small steps have been taken to present and recognize the values of the industrial heritage inherent, such as organization of the Round Table, 120 years of industry in Vareš, the jubilee of the founding on the first ironworks in Bosnia and Herzegovina caused the launch of the Foundation for Reconstruction and Development of the Vareš region, which currently comprise a large, abundant, and devastated industrial area, the so-called brownfield zone created as a result of the industrialization, that is the closure of the Vareš ironworks and the mine. Then there is a two-day symposium of industrial heritage in the area of Bihać between reality and the vision, which focused on the failed giant Combitex. A public tender for the transformation of water tower, also in Bihać. 27 solutions from several European countries arrived from the competition. One of the most important events significant for the social verification of this type of heritage is certainly the exhibition Reuse of Old Industrial Building by Axel Fall, presented first in Sarajevo and then in Mostar. It's certainly necessary to mention the Mostar Urban Restart. Anna presented that, and as well as the Zenica 2038 project, which in a 20-year plan for the revitalization of Zenica does not consider the industrial heritage as a break, but as a potential for development. All these previously mentioned activities have certainly made significant steps in the social verification of this specific type of heritage in our country. Now I will briefly present an exhibition with the symbolic name Industrialization in Progress, which was supposed to open on March 21st in Sarajevo, but was cancelled until the fail due to the current events with pandemic. The project Industrialization in Progress aims to point out through multimedia traveling exhibition the importance of industrial heritage and its potential through the decades of cooperation between Bosnia and Herzegovina and the rest of Europe and the world. On this slide, you could see the basic information about the project, as well as information about exhibition in numbers. The goals of the project itself are presented in detail here. What? Industrial development in Bosnia and Herzegovina can be more closely monitored from the end of the Ottoman period and beginning of Austro-Hungarian period, when engineers from different parts of Europe came to Bosnia and Herzegovina and often started the new production plants and became active carriers together with the local population of industrial development.
Sorry, Maya, it's just the background. Somebody's interrupting the presentation. Sorry, you just continue. Everything's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. And often started new production plants and became active carriers together with the local population of industrial development and active participants in the transformation of Bosnia and Herzegovina cities. Between the two world wars, there were no significant development in the field of industry in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that after the Second World War, there would be intense and accelerated industrial development that was in step with the development of other European countries. During this period, numerous factories and industrial plants were established in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which was a part of Yugoslavia, and production in some factories, plants, mine, ironworks was restored and expanded. During this period, Bosnia and Herzegovina recorded one of the fastest industrialization in the world, and actively participated in the European economic scene through the export of raw materials, finished products, various goods and services. The exhibition aims to chronologically cover this time period of about 140 years, but in such a way that emphasize particular points in history that are key moments for Bosnia and Herzegovina and cooperation between Bosnia and Herzegovina and EU. The aim of the exhibition is to emphasize the set timelines through discoveries, inventions, innovations, everyday life, and monuments of the future. The aim of this exhibition is to show the life of workers in the process of industrialization in Bosnia and Herzegovina and present facts related to this period without ideological coloration. Okay. The aim of the exhibition is to answer a set questions such as what discoveries, innovation, invention do we make during the industrial development in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the EU? What are the characteristics of the everyday life of workers in Bosnia and Herzegovina in the period of industrialization? What is the relation to working time, what to leisure, when and why the workers' association movements come forward and what do they stand for? What is the position of the workers? What are the effects of industrialization on cities and what effects does industrialization have on urban development? When do they arise and what are the characteristics of worker settlements? What events will change the course of industrial development? What are the personalities that have characterized the industrial development in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Who were the barriers of development in architecture, industry, science, and other segments of life? Who were the leading industry giants? What did they produce and export to today's EU market? How did the process of the industrialization begin and how does it affect Bosnia and Herzegovina? These and many other questions. The work on this exhibition creation project has been conceived through several steps and collaboration of several researchers from several different fields, directly related to the theme and producing of the exhibition. The exhibition will include graphic material, video material, audio material, designs, spatial concept for the exhibition settings, promotion material, and will including workshops, pop-ups, events, organization of the exhibition in 10 cities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and other technical elements of the organization. This is a conceptual presentation of design of exhibition that found inspiration in this example shown here. As a part of the project, workshops were held for high school students in Mostar, Bihać, Sarajevo, Banja Luka, Tuzla, and Zenica. They took place in a period from November 7 to November 27 last year. In the first part of the workshop, students were introduced to the world's, Bosnia and Herzegovina's, and local industry heritage and learn about the life of worker during the first and second industrial revolution. But they also shared their own opinions on this topic. The second part of the work was practical and creative work, through which students had the opportunity to learn more about the industry of their city and the industry of other cities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The workshop was successful, conducted because it fulfilled its educational and entertaining goal. And with the help of the workshop, the students received many new ideas and guidelines for the further work on this project. Now, I'll have to do is to invite you to an exhibition, which we are now sure will be held not only in a physical sense, but also in online format on our platform. Greeting and see you soon. Thank you.
Maya, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope we will be able to see the exhibition online soon.
Yeah.
Do you have a date? Do you have a date when will it be online?
September, I think.
September. Okay. Well, just after going back to normal life in September, back to school again.
Yes.
I know that Cultural Heritage Without Borders has done many really projects with children. That means, if I'm correct, that you have really good response from the kids, whether primary school, secondary school kids, and that's why you always return to them in order to raise awareness among them and to involve them in preservation of the heritage. Is it correct?
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you very much, and I wish you all the success with the children. As they say, children are the future, but also it's very important to educate young people how to treat the heritage and what are the possibilities for appropriate use, reuse, and actually appropriate treatment of the heritage, not just by demolishing it. Thank you one more. And now I would like to call Senada Demirovic-Habibia, architect and urban planner in city of Mostar, who has woven her private and professional life into the streets, parks, and buildings of Mostar. Professionally involved in processes of reconstruction, construction, and planning, she is one of the few that has held each and every stone in this rock city of Mostar. Beside work, her research is also focused on the cities divided with invisible lines in Europe and Arab countries, lines made not just by wars, but by neglect and transition processes. Questioning role of the heritage, she offers some answers to common problems, but always taking into account local context. Today, she will present what are potentials for transformation and reuse, explaining methodology within needed approaches to heritage sites. Senada, please take the word. Senada, please just turn. Yeah, thank you very much.
The microphone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is my screen shared?
Yes, we see the screen. We hear you very well.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for great presentations. We had the chance to hear just, and maybe some of them did actually provoke some new thoughts to all of us, in particular to those who are actually every day working in the field of cultural heritage, reconstruction, reuse, not only speaking about industrial heritage, but in a wider context. My role of today's conference, as we are approaching to its end, is related to one of the tasks that were dedicated, short research that was dedicated to the participants of the partners actually of the project. And I will just shortly say something about this research, which is quite interesting, and it goes along some of the ideas that we just heard, and it's also on the other side very interesting because we could hear a lot of the thoughts and the projects that are either started or made by the professionals, but not once, but probably a few times today, we also heard how important for people in profession is to hear the voice of the end user, which are the citizens and the ones who, without whose opinion and ideas, we actually cannot deliver the right and make the right decisions. Although, unfortunately, it's very often, especially and particularly in the countries of ex-Yugoslavia or Western Balkans, this still is happening where without public hearings or without involvement of the citizens, we still have very often the decision made by decision makers. Hopefully that this kind of approach will actually change very soon. But what is very important, just a second. Why heritage is an important community asset? Heritage sites, as we heard, and it's have a great and very powerful and positive influence on our community. No matter we are talking about regeneration, housing, education, economic growth, or community growth, the heritage has a great impact. No matter if we think about it or if we are aware about it, in a certain way, it is always part of our lives, and it's a part of something that is going on with our lives. As, for instance, Roberto mentioned in his presentation, that really is interesting how this probably subject will actually grow and be even more important in a very short time in front of us, which is definitely something that probably all of us already think about how it could and might look like. As I mentioned, within the project, we have conducted a research that was named Research in a Community, mapping the cultural heritage sites with the potential for adaptive reuse. This research was done within the 9 partners, the cities of Heraklion, Sisak, Knjaževac, Subotica, Mostar, Zavidovići, Prijedor, Nikšić, and Valora. The methodology for this research was defined and divided into 3 steps. The first one, to identify the cultural heritage sites in their cities and in these cities that I mentioned, and to give short descriptions about the sites. So the idea was to make kind of on a touristic map, if possible, or any other kind of map, to map the sites that have a particular value and that could actually be the sites for adaptive use. As this task was not really oriented only on the culture, on the industrial heritage, there was a vast and a wider context of the heritage sites in these cities. As you later on, I can actually show and mention some of them. The second element, the second task was to sub-select the 3 out of this wider range, for which the partners can name some proposals for the adaptive reuse for the future. And the third was to express the importance of a local community engagement in this kind of project, which for the interest of the whole CLINK project was probably even the most important, to understand or to at least try to find out the elements, the common values and the common thoughts that those cities who are rather coming, let's say, from the same region, but rather also different, could actually come with some points that are overlapping and that are equal almost for each of the societies and the cities we are living in. So participants mapped over 30,000 of 30 heritage sites, over 30 heritage sites. And each of them gave 3 examples, as it was asked for them, with adaptive reuse ideas. I have to say that in order to understand how far it went, we can actually, or I can name it as a brainstorming task. I think this is the most convenient to say, because the process took not a long period, and in order to make it, probably this brainstorming could be the best description, as what we also wanted to get out of the participants is their first thoughts related to the sites they are explaining and giving the ideas. Of course, some of the cities, I have to say, have a longer tradition or a longer experience working with the cultural heritage in general or industrial heritage issues, but some of the communities and some partners probably had this to do for the first time. So somewhere in between, balancing them both, we found out that exactly this kind of approach could be very interesting. As mentioned, not only cultural heritage sites were presented or mapped, but there were some other heritage categories as medieval fortresses, housing complexes, etc. The adaptive reuse in general, in total, in each of the partner cities and countries were in line with the needs of each particular city. But what was very interesting to see that each of them, this is the common value, had the proposals that are the proposals and the needs of their communities. Which means that through this kind of intervention, we hear and we heard the voice of the end user. This is really something very important. What you can later on also read in a statement that was delivered by here is also that in several cases, what I mentioned at the beginning, we had cases where administration already decided on the public administration, local government already decided on some, in some cases, what would be the next or the further use of these abandoned or deteriorated sites without any public hearings. At contrary, at this research, we could have seen that, for instance, there is a lack of site in particular for youth people. So not one, but probably at least 3 to 5 proposals were oriented and dedicated for the youth clubs or the youth hubs, or for something which is more oriented for what are the needs of the youth of today. And in the same time, as we heard through some of the presentations, unfortunately, on the other side, very often public administration would say that for the sake of economical growth and for the development of the city, it is needed to either set up some trade or commercial centers or something which actually is more profitable and at the end is more maybe touristically profitable than this some other proposals that are more oriented to another kind of profit that probably still many of the governments are not aware, and actually raising the awareness of the importance of social impact and the social context of development of the cities in general, also through this kind of interventions, as we had a chance to see through this research. Based on this, everything that was mentioned and the following facts that you can read later, maybe I can just say a few of them. The historical environment as a proven source of benefit for local economies, for local citizens and communities, the importance of understanding the sense of place, which is crucially important for the community, the adaptive reuse of a heritage as important factor for creating the sustainable community. And other facts named here. Finally, we as a participant of the CLINK project give a following statement that really comes, although made a bit before and more based on the previous materials and the research, but still coming in line with what we heard from the presentations. Heritage is a potent driver for community action. Yeah. As it is easier for me also this way, heritage is a potent driver for community action. Therefore, for the benefit of a heritage protection, as well as the general benefit of citizens and their needs, for the purpose of environmental protection and smart urban planning, the process of reuse and adaptation of buildings and the cultural heritage in general, in particular the industrial heritage buildings, is one of the key processes for creating a healthy, sustainable, and livable environment. In order for this to happen, process of decision making upon its final purpose must be agreed between all participants in the process, including the citizens. Therefore, we need a responsible approach as follows: to be accountable, which means we must accept that every decision and action we make in our daily lives has an impact. To have capacity, which is that we must take responsibility for our actions and acquire the knowledge, skills, and resources to make changes. And the third is to take an action, as we also heard previously, with this bottom-up approach, where being responsible is not only an intent, it requires action. And that action must be good based upon the law, our ethics, and our morals. So with this last three elements for responsible approach, I would actually conclude this statement and the short overview on the research that was done.
Thank you very much, Senada. Thank you for the overview and actually pointing out all the findings of today's conference and all the presentations that we heard today. But I would like to ask you just one question. Do you think that this methodology that was developed for this project, this actually quite easy three-step approach and the point on briefing, could be something that should be taken for the wider use with the local communities as well, so introducing also them to take it for mapping all their community and to include also local governments and decision-making institutions into this brainstorming process together with local with people from NGOs and all the others. Do you think this methodological approach would be possible and could have some positive results?
Being always optimistic, of course, that my answer would be yes, it is possible. It is a hard work, definitely, but also taking in consideration my experience, I have to say that, for instance, in my particular case, I can say from the aspect of city of Mostar, which we heard already that it is very hard and tough place to make changes and to make government to understand. But I think that we are coming in the period where being also through being stubborn and repeatedly doing some actions, that very soon we will come to the point that we will be able to, if necessary, to convince the government the importance of investing in this kind of processes and in this kind of concepts. So this what we made as a very short, as I said, the brainstorming methodology and research could be widened out. Definitely, because there are some elements that need to be integrated, and probably this kind of research should be also done, as you mentioned, including other stakeholders, in order to get more proper materials with which we can go further talking to the government and some other authorities that are relevant for the field of cultural heritage. But definitely we need to take an action, and action is exactly what is coming. Unfortunately, at least in our society, usually it comes from the individuals or the NGO sector or the NGO sectors. And then since in that sense you don't have a full power, then it really takes much more time than, for instance, in some maybe more aware societies where a government definitely understands the importance of the investment, not only for the economical or economy profit, but as I mentioned, for the impact to the society.
And that's actually the key. Because society holds the heritage, and society lives here. It's a society, not just the economy. It's a society that drives the city, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's very, very interesting. I mean, very nice methodological approach, quite easy, quite quick, and adaptable. That's why I asked you. It could be quite easily. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senada. Now, before calling all the panelists to join for the conclusions, I would like to ask Janana to join us and to present the results of the projects at the very end of this final conference. Janana, we cannot, just a second, I'm sorry, Janana, we cannot hear you at the moment. Just a second. Okay, now it's perfect. Now it's perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Amra, and thank you all. This is like a forest of ideas. And now I'm full of the marvelous ideas on different things, and I feel like full of energy to continue doing what actually this project was implemented during this year and a half. I will now just go through the conclusions and the documents actually that I mentioned to you at the beginning, and it was available for you to open, to see and download during the presentation, and those documents are very important products of the project. So the first one are the recommendations for citizens' participation in preservation and promotion of cultural heritage in the communities, produced in Caen in France. It's what you can see now is only the screenshot of the document, but it is available here now on the web platform and also in a website of the project. So my recommendation is to use this document and to actually try to go through it and see how you can actually act up on the recommendations in your own local environment, because even now during this conference we actually realize how important is engagement of all of us. It doesn't matter if we are professional, if we are government, if we are or civilians, the ordinary citizens not very much involved in this topic, but there is a task for all of us to preserve our cultural heritage. So this is the documents that you can use. Then the next document produced is the collection of the best practices, cultural heritage as a source, urban regeneration of the comeback of the craft culture. This is very nice document where you can, from which you can see actually how in real life you can use cultural heritage as the inspiration to do many different things that will support the economic development, tourism, and many different areas in our life. So the next one is the joint statement and conclusion on heritage restoration, new life for abandoned industrial, religious, military, and public buildings that was presented just now by Senada. So Senada presented the process, how we came to this statement, and this was also for me very interesting. Actually, we as one of the project partners are supposed to do the same research and the same mapping, and we made a list of 10-15 sites, and then I asked only 2 people out of our team that are not anyhow related or informed about the project, the topic, and anything, and I asked them which site they would actually propose, and I both proposed the same, and it was like a fire tower. So it was, I don't know, it was really nice, small building, very much, it's very possible to reuse and very interesting. And it was like the way how different people can see differently the things and the value of some sites. So this is part also of this research. And the statement that was just produced, and the most important thing in this statement is actually the responsibility of all of us. So, and next 2 documents are reviews of the activities implemented within the pop-up galleries in 9 cities of the partners of the project, and the next one is the review of the community forums realized also in the same cities. So all those documents were available for you on this platform till now. Also, they will be available on the website of the project and the Facebook page of the project. I think the administrator already copy those links to the chat. If not, please, you can see it now in the chat. So you can copy and use and go to visit the website and the Facebook page of the project to download all these documents. And now, after my presentation, those documents will be removed, and administrator will upload all the presentations that you had the chance to see today. Also, the presentations will be available at the website and the Facebook site of the project. So all those products are not only for us, it is for a wider audience and for all of you. And as I already mentioned at the beginning, now after this conference and a year and a half of this wonderful project, we are all partners full of many wonderful ideas how we could continue this. And I also invite all the participants of this conference, call us, come back to us, give us your ideas, and we can work together, because I say again, it is very important to be together, to keep what is very important, and this is cultural heritage of all of us. And I have to say thank you, Andra, for the wonderful moderation of this event, and for being with us during all the project implementation. Thank you, Maya, thank you, Senada, thank you, Anna, Vlatko, and Roberto for wonderful presentation and inspiring us. And thank you all participants. It was really nice to have almost 120 participants during the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Janana, for the opportunity to be part of this project and to meet all interesting people and be involved in all the research and discussions that were really interesting and productive. Now I would like to call all the panelists to switch on their cameras so we can make final conclusion of the conference, and to thank all the participants for attending the conference, being with us today, their patience and involvement. If they have any questions, I called them to send through the chat, and we can discuss it in this final 10 or 15 minutes. at the very end of the conference, as I said, I thank all the panelists for actually giving really good presentations and pointing importance of integrated sustainable approach, explaining really what it is and how it can work, for presenting positive stories and actions, giving arguments and examples that is really possible and worth involving and investing in regeneration of the heritage, in reuse, whether it is like in CSOC community done, or making it in more alternative way, like in ground action idea. Explaining why work with children is important and how it can be done in innovative way and more interesting for the children, to really educate them on something in the way that it's appropriate for them. And for presenting to us one methodological approach that is possible to be used in local, not just by NGOs, but also by the local governments and by the governments and institutions involved in decision-making processes, to be used for better understanding of the heritage and needs of the community for how to use that heritage. So it's really important, as maybe in a way all of you have mentioned, dialogue between the institutions and the community is very important, not just just to have a dialogue, but actually it's important for the sustainability of the project. It's important for the sustainability of the heritage, for the use of the heritage. Action from one side is never good because it leads to the destruction of the heritage in the end, in this or another way. So coming all down to it all actually in the end comes down to the sustainability. As the question was at the beginning, whether is the CSOC action sustainable and how, and we saw that it's actually really sustainable. But I would like to ask your opinion now, how you think important is and what are the possibilities to guarantee the sustainability of the intervention? What's the importance of continuing action? Constantly involving community, whether it's through the beer festival, through the engagement, through the industrial heritage days, whether through the inventing new actions that fit the local communities and involving kids to participate in those actions. So what's the importance and what are the approaches for guaranteeing the sustainability of the actions taken on the reuse of the heritage sites? Maybe Vlatko, you can start.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that in local communities, if you don't have local communities behind you or with you, you don't have nothing. If you don't have stable basis, everything will be collapsed. So I think the one of most important thing is work with the local community. This is the one part of sustainability in some projects. So I from the beginning I always work with the local community, with workers of the factories, with the children, with the I know. I also think that the important thing is to show the local community the good examples from outside, from other parts of the state or from the other parts of the EU or the world, so they can see that we have some positive and good projects, and we can use these ideas in our local community. So my motto is work with the local community.
And actually you work from an institutional point of view, because you work from the museum and involving from this actually like a middle management, not just decision making institutional, but you involve the communities in your actions. Okay, Roberto, you work with the community from different ground, from different way. Yeah, you approach it from the NGO approach or for the some local actions. How you I'm sorry, Roberto, we cannot hear you.
Oh, my microphone is working. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's more about, as I mentioned, it's depend. We have not a unique client, if we can say that. It's important. The community is always the destination, large or small community. But the starting point could be everybody that needs. And I think what is very important is to consider that we are part of this. And if we are involved in that as part, this makes the things working better, in the sense that it's not a relation like it to be I don't know, to call from somebody to give a service. So this is part of creating a situation, a human situation, and collective approach to something. I think what is the best of all is create a situation that continues in the time. No, it's not to video teaching that's above teaching and etc. Huh? So the community self-structure itself. That's the important thing.
It's actually giving the community possibility.
Yeah, that's what's really important, that we have seen so many projects, especially we come from an ex-socialist country, and us anyways something that would in a certain sense the same. But we have seen all this drive from above project, you know, and the point to have things that leave, so it's the only thing is to create a situation that people feel they are the project, they continue the project. That's the biggest part. And not because they have a job, but because it's part of structure. It became so intimate. No, I think it's good chance now in this moment with all this crisis of tourism.
To use it.
People can more to themselves. A local tourism that is completely different, and
then comes the importance of what Vlatko just said, that you should present people positive stories so they know that it's possible, it can happen, and to give them some wind to start on their own, to make a change and to secure sustainability.
Yes, I think that's to make them doing protagonists of positive stories.
To be their support, not to just.
Sure, I don't know. Just on this action. This action is the idea you do in our sense, but not to be a protagonist with you. Just to explain that it's somebody, and you can show that there are always consequences of what you do. If you throw something in the trash, or you use it, or you stay under a tree and sing, make a modification of what is the environment. And this is always positive. It could be negative, okay?
Yeah,
but it could be positive if you want to do something good. No?
Thinking about this positivity and sustainability, Anna, what would be your suggestion for how to create or how to develop sustainability in all the approaches for the projects? As you said, sometimes local government is not interested, but still, how can we try to secure sustainability in some of the projects, or the interventions done by local communities?
Well, definitely, as Maya mentioned, for example, the event that the exhibition that happened in Sarajevo and Mostar, and we had with Senada and Janana, I think, some lectures in Kosača, in Cultural Center Kosača in Mostar. After that lecture, there were a lot of citizens from Mostar there present who were not involved in. They were not architects or nothing related, and they were like really surprised after seeing all the example of industrial heritage that was conserved in a sustainable way all around the world, and they were like shocked. Wow, that is really possible. So I think that is like a first step to really reach out to the community and enhance the value that industrial heritage or heritage in general in Mostar has. And after that, it's like that is like what is the most important to start a sustainability regeneration, let's say, to sensibilize a community.
Yeah, to actually, yeah, to raise awareness, to educate the community that it is possible, that it can happen.
Yes,
and that they can
then
be
of course also
the
this and then of course these bottom up actions, or these actions, as Roberta says, and of course working with the youngest population is always super productive because it involves it talks directly about education, which is very important, because why people don't have conscience today about heritage in Mostar, for example. They were not educated to have that kind
that
of conscience,
sensibility.
right? Yes, and if that is involved from starting from the youngest years, it would be imagine those people and those minds later when they grow up.
Yeah. Maya, what would be your experience? I'm sorry, Senada. At the end, I would like to ask you to give some conclusion, because you have the experience both from coming from the institutional point and from the local community ground and work. What would be a meeting point of these two? Is it possible to have the meeting point, not just from the Mostar case, but from the other cases that you are familiar with, some positive cases? How we all agree that it's very important in order to secure sustainability to have both bottom up, top down, and to me that they're somewhere. But for your opinion, how to reach this? Is it easier if we have particular projects, or if we do always projects that are defined by someone and then we discuss about the projects particular, or maybe if we start by overseeing the possibilities of the whole site, whole city, and then starting to actually to invest the city and to develop the project through the dialogue? What would be maybe the better possibility? Your opinion just on it.
Yeah, it's quite challenging to answer the question because it really depends of the context, and somehow in order to answer, it's always maybe easier to relate to exact thing. And for me, although working in some other societies and sites, Mostar is the place where I gave the most of probably, at least in research, in the process of research. What I see as one of the things that is missing in order to make the connections, or this what we call a new connection, is also academia. It's a research process that it is totally lost. So between those who are the final users, or the ones that we are working with at the ground, which is a society on one side, and to whom we have a particular connection, because the people who live the site, they speak also very often with their emotions. While on the other side, the administration also has its own emotions, if I metaphorically can say what are their emotions. But between the two, there is someone who can really exactly say what would be the right way. And this is academia. Sometimes we transfer this academia side through different set of workshops, kind of smaller researches, and through these methods we also involve, but again individually, people. Like over here right now, we have individuals coming from the different sides. But if hypothetically we would take one side, such as, for instance, Mostar, where we can gather all of those together and then try to model this into to grow, to fertilize it in a way that it grows, then final impact would be visible. Otherwise, it is always punctual. It's kind of mapped. If you would map now all around the places where we are right now, you can see a small scale interventions that actually particularly individually has a sense, but unfortunately they are kind of spread, and you cannot really see, yeah, you cannot really visibly see it. And this is very, very common over here. One thing that I will just maybe mention related to the thing and the fact if and how locals, the citizens, are whether related or non-related to the cultural heritage. In our particular case, you have this unfortunate of the war and the conflict and the post-war process that unfortunately didn't digest the real value of what it means, the heritage, and what is the continuity. And in that sense, the values are neglected and are, how to say, changed and also individually understood, somehow more emotionally than exactly.
Professionally.
And this is also one of the reasons why some of the heritage, and I can definitely say industrial heritage as well, was not taken in consideration, because over here, industrial heritage, unfortunately, many of this, what we heard from Mostar, is related to the past political system. And very often it is also neglected because of that. On the other hand, as I said, the local administration, under the pressure of not having the knowledge and the understanding of the urban context of the value of the city, they cannot understand why we should invest in the reconstruction of something that has a great potential. They don't have this kind of awareness. They don't have the knowledge. That is why it's important that in the processes we involve the people who put a lot of years in the research, and they are very adequate and knowledgeable. They can explain why we should do these kind of things, how to put the thing to be reused, as Roberto mentioned a few times, more important than to be recycled.
Yeah, reuse much more important.
So if just the last sentence, I mean, the process is definitely ongoing, and it's much faster right now than 2 decades before. But we need to be in this moment very strong in our intent to continue this development. And then maybe we will see the light very soon, that this will actually have be productive.
Yes, as you just now pointed out, that actually the process is not like linear, on one hand community and the other institutions, but actually triangle. You have the academy on one point that should provide a link between two, and exchange of knowledge, taking academy, taking also some institutions like museums and so on for this. Yes. Giving good practices and so on. And one other thing that I just like to stress out of all what you said now, all of you, is importance of the urban context. So it's not just one site that should be acted on. Actually, the story should be developed around whole context, whole area, and then we can act on one side, but always taking into consideration the whole context, social, local, and urban as well. Okay, I thank you all. We have our conclusions also in the statements Nada just presented several minutes ago. I thank you all for the participation, for sharing your thoughts, ideas. Roberto, would you like to say something?
Yes, sorry, no? Something very technical. I want to share. Yeah, I want to share the link I sent, or I can send you the PDF.
You can send it to Jelena, and then we'll share it for the others. Okay, Jelena will post it to share it with the others, the link.
Okay. So, okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. I will just mention once more that all posted here are all presentations for today's lecture, from today's conference, as well other documents that were posted recently for you to download during this final conference. And I thank you all once more, and I really hope that we'll manage to exchange the ideas and best practices once more in the near future. Thank you. Enjoy the day.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.